Hey, this is Chris, and in this video, I'm going to be sharing my most valuable asset. And no, it's not my StockSpot portfolio. It's definitely not my signed Leighton Hewitt shirt that he wore winning the Davis Cup back in '99. And although I think it will be valuable one day, even though my wife tells me it won't be, it's not my rare Astro Boy memorabilia collection that I have stored up in my attic. In fact, this asset is an asset I didn't really appreciate the value of when I was in my 20s, but I'm really starting to appreciate more and more in my 30s, which is time. Now, time I think is so different to all of the other assets that people think about. Nobody really knows how much time they have left. Only that each day you definitely have less and less than the day before, and there's no way to get more time, and once you've used up time, there's no way to replenish it. And I think this is a realization that's become more and more obvious to me after having kids, because I think I've noticed my kids are now 3 and 1.5. They grow up so quickly, and you really want to spend as much time with them as possible, because one of my best memories as a kid was the time that I spent as a young kid with my parents, with my mum doing arts and crafts, with my dad playing tennis and soccer. These are such great memories that I want my kids to have. And so I find myself now thinking a lot more and more about how I can access more time, which is difficult when you're working and have kids. How do I access more time to spend with my kids? And with all the time that I'm spending with my kids, how can I still access some time for myself? And yeah, I think time, therefore, is something as you get older that you really start to value more as an asset and start to consider how you can be more choiceful in your use of that asset. And I wanted to share a few examples that have come up in my life recently, where I've had to consider the way-offs of time and convenience and cost and really make a decision about how to use that asset. One of them is a very simple one, which is shopping for groceries. So, when my young kids were very young, I used to spend their nap time at lunchtimes going off and doing my weekly shop at Woolies or Coles, buying all the things we needed for the next week. But what I realized was that 1.5 hours that they're napping is extremely valuable time. It's probably the only time I get in the day to spend on my own, on my own terms, doing my own things, going for a run, reading a book. And if I was using it shopping, that was time I wasn't going to get back. So I did the sums and worked out that the $10 you spend doing an online shop, in my case at least, was worthwhile because it brought back somewhere between an hour and an hour and a half each weekend that I could go and do something for myself. And I know people sort of take that to an even further extreme. There's so many services out there these days that not only deliver your groceries, they might give you recipes, so you don't have to spend time looking up recipes. Or they might go even a step further than that and deliver fully cooked meals. I don't choose those particular versions, although I have tried them all, probably because I actually enjoy the process of cooking, and I often involve the kids. For me, cooking is a way to sort of separate from work, to have a bit of a break, to use my brain differently, and I really enjoy it. But I can totally understand why some of these other online services are doing so well, because I think professionals are really realizing the value of their time more, especially that time after work, where I think in the past a lot of time was spent on food preparation, thinking about recipes, thinking about cooking, and people that don't want to be doing that want the option to do something else. So cooking is one example. Another that I think very carefully about is my commute time. And I know it's something that's changing a lot in this day and age, after the lockdowns, and I think there's a lot more remote work that's an option for people. But at this time of my life, I realized that the commute time was time that I needed to put a value on. And, we've had choices over the last few years. Should we be moving further away from the city where we might be able to get a bit more space and the rent might be a little bit lower, or should we be staying closer to the city? And in doing the sums, I thought about it this way, that if we were living pretty close to the city, I could save myself around about an hour a day of time. And that hour is time that I spend, with the kids on dinner time and bath time and spending with my wife, that otherwise I would spend on a train or on a bus. Over a year, an hour a day, if you're working 250 days a year, is 250 hours. And so in weighing up the extra rental cost of living close to the city, that's the time cost I was thinking about. How much am I prepared to pay for an extra 250 hours a year to spend with my family at a time that, I really want to spend it with my family. My kids are young, they seem to enjoy being around me still. I want to really use as much of that time as possible. Now, the final example I wanted to share, which is a funny one, is one that came up in a debate I had with my dad recently. So my dad is someone that hates paying for things that he doesn't think we should be paying for, but at the same time doesn't like listening to advertising. So he's come up with a bit of a conundrum recently when he's had to decide, should he pay for listening to music? So should he use the Spotify paid version or should he use the Spotify free version? It was a tricky decision for him because he was weighing up two things that he disliked probably quite equally, but he decided to use the free version. And I used the paid version and I had to explain to him why, because he said, Chris, why wouldn't you just listen to a few ads if you're going to save some money? And I said, Dad, how much do you listen to Spotify each day? And he said, it's on in the background in the house, like it's probably on, a few hours a day, let's say 2 or 3 hours a day. And then I looked up online, how much, is Spotify playing ads? And it looks like they're playing probably 2 or 3 minutes an hour of ads. And so multiplying it out, I worked out that, if you're paying for if you're not paying for the Spotify paid version, you're probably listening to 2 to 2.5 days of ads per year. And so that was the question I posed back to my dad is, look, Dad, you're retired, you've got some options in how you sort of spend your money to enjoy your time. At the moment, you're listening to probably 2 or 2.5 days of ads a year. If you could pay $100 not to listen to those ads, would you do it? And his question was quite different. It was like, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about it that way. But it shows even people at different life stages, I think, always need to be considering that balance between cost and convenience and how much you're really valuing your time. And music is, obviously a luxury and not a luxury everyone has, but if it is a luxury you're considering, you want to be, making sure you're getting the most, enjoyment out of it. And I would say 2 extra days of listening to your favorite, for my dad, Beatles tracks or favorite Beach Boys tracks is going to be worth a lot more than listening to ads for JB Hi-Fi. So, there are a few examples and also, I think for me was one of the reasons that I was inspired to start StockSpot is that I really think investing in is an area that, if done well, takes a lot of time, but actually can be automated in a way that helps people get more time back. And so in other videos, I've talked about some of the technical aspects of automated investing and robo-advice, how we can technically give you access to lower risk and how we can give you the potential for better returns. But actually, I think an area that's not talked about enough is how different digital services, and robo-advice or online investing is a great example, can get you back time in your life. And for people that are time poor, for professionals, or for people that really value that extra time and want to spend it wisely, the time that it takes to pick great investments for your portfolio, to make sure that they're balanced correctly, that your dividends are reinvested, that the tax is happening efficiently, all of this takes a lot of time. It takes time up front, it takes time ongoing, and for people that value their time, it's something that you can now automate and get back lots and lots of hours per year that you can spend doing the things that you love. So just something to think about, I think, in all areas of your life. What do you value your time at, and where are you prepared to spend a little more in order to earn more hours back in your day?